Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. We're live streaming across YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and God knows where else. I'm Stephen Browne, and with me is Jayson Booker here to chat all things Leeds. Jason, how are we doing, mate?
I'm all right, mate. All right. As we were just saying, not got my finger on the pulse too much today, but keeping up to date with the news coming in as much as we can.
Quite exciting today. It's a bit of a refresh on Twitter every 5 seconds type of day.
It has, as you know, like I've been down in the dumps with it over the last week or so, as group chats kind of been popping off with one said Huddersfield fan. Enjoying the pain. Well, I mean, I say enjoying. It was quite, humble when it got serious because it bothers us, doesn't it? Like this last 2 seasons have been rough, and then we follow it up with a summer of it being really rough and tough. And I'm trying to stay as positive and as optimistic as I can, but it's tricky. It's been tricky, but yeah, today we've had the start, hopefully, of some better news.
Yeah, definitely, because it was reaching boiling point, wasn't it, really? It was getting to the point where there was just complete radio silence other than kind of the standard social media tweeting, that kind of thing. And you're scratching your head. I was starting to really panic about the fact that we were loaning all these players out. We were making no money in Farke's comments after the Man United game, which we'll get into. Yeah. And it just all seemed to be building towards this almost like a crisis where you're thinking, actually, like we predicted potentially a few months ago, it could be back-to-back relegations at this point. It really has been one of those weeks where you just thought, oh my goodness, what is going on?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm still not completely out of that. Like, I'm not. Like, I'm not completely out of that because I think I still think the squad that we've currently got with the potential for other outgoings is just not good enough. Not enough experience, not enough quality. So I am still worried. But the fact that we're now starting to move and I know we'll get into it, but the fees that are involved, it's making me think that we're about some business. So I can relax a little bit because we've got something to hold on to now. Whereas before, we're 23 days away from the start of the season, we've got nothing. So
Yeah, no, totally agree. Good evening, everyone. Richo, thanks for your comments, mate. Get your comments in. What do you think about all the latest shenanigans at Leeds? Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well for more content. Well, the big news today, Jace, we'll get right to it. Yeah. I was kind of thinking, oh, here we go again. Another start of the week, and nothing much is really happening again. And then wham, all of a sudden, in the style that it seems that the 49ers are going to take at Leeds, which actually, although it does lead to a bit of anxiety before announcements are made, it's quite nice that deals are getting announced when they're practically over the line. So Ethan Ampadu from Chelsea, it's about 7 million, I think, with add-ons, is Phil Hayes' latest tweet about it. He's been on loan for the last 3 seasons. He's suffered 3 relegations back-to-back. Each time he's been on loan, he's been in Italy the last couple of years. When I did put it in our group chat, our West Yorkshire Football Show live group chat earlier today, Lewis Sale, resident Bradford Park Avenue, Mr. Bradford Park Avenue, was away on his honeymoon at the moment. Not impressed with it. Steve Downs, the Huddersfield Hub, Steve Downs, he kind of gave a laughing face emoticon. I'm actually quite buzzed about this signing. I think actually it's a statement of intent a little bit. He's only 22. He's played a lot of senior football, international football. He's come through the ranks. I mean, where do you stand on it? What are we going to get if this one gets over the line?
I think it's a top signing. And I think, reputation can sometimes precede people and players. And I think, the facts are he was picked up at a ridiculously young age by Chelsea. 16, I think he was when he was signed from Exeter, and it was like the next best thing at the time. He made his senior debut for Chelsea at 17. You don't do that if you're not some player. And people also are quick to forget that he's only 22. It feels like he's been around forever, but the lad is still a kid in football terms at 22. I think his versatility is obviously something that's massive. I think he could well fit in a bottom 6 team in the Premier League and play games, start games. For me, he's a midfielder over a centre back, but he can play centre back. And I think when you then compare it to the other transfers that have kind of gone on around us, and that's the only thing you can kind of compare it to. When you think of 10 million for Winks and 10 million for Cody, I think it's good value too. He only had a year left on his deal. That's true. Yeah. That kind of makes part of the fee. Is it too much? Is it not? But I think 7 million don't get you much nowadays. And when he's a UK based player, which always increases the tax on a player because of certain stipulations that you need to make for homegrown players and all them kind of things that come with it. Chelsea tax, selling to Leeds, I don't think it's as much of a thing as if we were in the Premier League and we wanted one of their players, but I think it still exists. So yeah, I think it's a really good, solid all-round signing. Like I said, for 7 million, you can't wish to get much more. 44 caps for Wales. He's played over 100 senior appearances already at 22. He played 25 times for Sheffield United in the Premier League 3 seasons ago, when he was 19. What more can you want? It's not sexy, I will say. It's not like an attacking super sexy signing, but in terms of what we need, he's absolutely spot on for me. Absolutely spot on.
Why do you think there's a bit of misgiving from like Lewis Sales? Kind of he's not all that when he's seen him. I mean, what is that hesitancy? Because I've got to admit he was someone I always signed on Football Manager about 3 or 4 years ago because he was always sky high potential. He was, like you say, signed from Exeter by Chelsea, and he was someone who had a bright future ahead of him. It seems to have, I don't want to say tailed off, but it's hard, isn't it? I mean, if you get signed by that Chelsea team, you're just one of many, especially at that time.
Absolutely.
You're one of many on loan, getting shipped out left, right, and centre across Europe most of the time. And like you say, he is only 22 and he's racked up a tremendous amount of experience. Worried about the fact that he's played in 3 consecutive relegations? Or...
No, not particularly. I mean, 2 things there. Look at some of the players that have come through the Chelsea kind of juggernaut over the years where they've signed players that never then played for them that then went on to have good careers elsewhere. Daniel Sturridge always stands out as one to me that kind of, went there and had to go and find his opportunities elsewhere. And he's not on his own. That there's several that have kind of come through. We've had a couple of them ourselves, Lewis Baker and Izzy Browne come to mind. And you have to, treat it with a certain amount of perspective of where we are again. We're a championship team again. So I think it's dealt with reputation because you can't, when you're a centre-back or a defensive midfielder, you can only have so much influence over a team, especially if they're in a team that are going to be struggling. We all rate Tyler Adams, but he was still he played 50% of the games in the team that then got relegated. You don't see him as a bad player because of that. You can only have so much influence over the side, especially depending on the tactics. Sheffield United were an absolute disgrace in the season that they went down, really. Yeah. They lost a lot of games. They didn't lose by many. They didn't lose by many goals or anything. They didn't get smacked, but they could not win games for love nor money. They ended up sacking... help me, Browne. Wilder. Chris Wilder. They ended up sacking Wilder and going down with a bit of a whimper, really, in that second season. And then, I mean, I don't know loads about Serie A football, but I know that Venezia and Spezia are not massive teams. I know that they've been expected to be in and around the relegation places. Yeah. So unless you're a mega, I would say, force as an attacking player, usually a centre-back or a defensive midfielder is not going to make or break whether you stay up or not. If you get put into that team and you are then surrounded by players that as a team, as a collective end up going down, I think that's just is what it is. I think he's still a good player, and I think we'll see a good player.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I probably wouldn't have been too disappointed with that season a year ago, especially when you consider some of the signings we did end up getting through the door. What do you make of how they've gone about the business? If this gets done, which it sounds very close to happening, I think medicals scheduled and all this kind of thing. Can you take a week's silence or all this kind of radio silence, the fact that we don't hear any leaks, we don't hear Fabrizio Romano tweeting about it endlessly for days before? Do you prefer this where, like getting Hammond in, it's just bang and done? I mean, is the balance right? I mean, it felt like a long time, didn't it, to wait for a signing? It felt, I mean, Farke, he's been there a couple of weeks, played the pre-season game obviously last week. Do you think it's been left to go on and rumble on a bit too long, or do you actually like the fact that it's like this?
I think, Browne, I think we'd all be fine with it, and we wouldn't be freaking out about it if we didn't have so much to get through in such a short amount of time. I think we all understand and recognise the fact that Rads and Orta conducted themselves terribly, and we don't want everything out in the media, Bamba Dieng and Gakpo and all the rest of it, shenanigans that kind of went on. I don't think any of us want that. I think the problem that we've got in this window is the fact that because we've heard nothing and we've been so used to the opposite, and the season's getting close and we knew there were going to be a lot of outgoings, it's making everybody panic. I think if this was a normal window or normal summer, and this was how we went about business, I think we'd all be like, yeah, that's how we conduct ourselves, and we hear about it when it's something, not, Rad's feeding it to Fabrizio to get the fan reaction and see what happens, or to kind of tickle our bellies a little bit. I the more I think about it over the years, the more I'm certain that links were kind of fed to the media on purpose to make us feel better, that the club were trying to do something. And they probably were. I believe some of them. I think we were in for De Ketelaere. I think we were in for Rodrigo de Paul. I think these things were real, but how realistic the signing actually was, in hindsight, is a different question altogether. So I think as a normal practice, I think this makes sense. It's just because we know that there's such precious little time, it's stressing us all out.
Yeah, and it's been an interesting week. Before we kind of get to rumours of other players, let's just kind of rewind a few days now. We had the pre-season friendly against that lot. It was a 2-0 loss. I know I kind of watched bits and pieces. I don't know if you got to watch kind of any of it or highlights.
Saw about 10 minutes. 10 minutes of the highlights.
I
couldn't watch it live, unfortunately, because of work. But I saw the major highlights, saw some of the chances, obviously saw the goals and some of the shocking defending, but
Well, one of the things I did find though is like just kind of watching clips of it, I felt like, I'm ready to watch some football again. I'm ready to. I think I'm ready to go again, and
I've healed.
Still, a little bit, and I'm like, I was excited to see them get out there, and especially some of the younger players, Joseph and JB and Archie Gray. It was exciting to see those guys get an opportunity. And it was kind of a tale of two halves, wasn't it? Really, you had the kind of the newbies in the first, and then the second half we saw some of the old guard, and some of the familiar problems arose. I think at the end of the game, when Farke was making his post-match comments, I think there were a few alarm bells ringing after that, wasn't there? When Farke said that, can't let this loan situation happen. And then you're thinking, Christ, how many players are going to go out on loan here?
He clearly, in my opinion, wanted to make a point that we're struggling because of the old ownership here. We're struggling because of the position that we've been put in. I think we all knew that, but I think now seeing it live, I think, it's clearly coming to roost because, these players, they're holding the club to ransom. You know what I mean? They're just holding the club to ransom. So,
It's really it says you bought the shirt ready to go. I know, it's true.
So, but it compromises you so much in terms of what you can and can't do this summer. I kind of like the idea of the loans to start with, and I do think there's some benefits with it with regards to building value in the players. But in terms of actually holding some of these players and saying, no, you're not going unless we get 10 million for you, Mark Rocker, then, it gives us funds to spend on an FFP basis, because I don't subscribe to this idea that we're skinned. I don't think that's the case at all. 49ers are, massively cash influence. Like it's a company that are based around money in to invest to then make more money. That it just don't make sense to say that we're skin. But I do think there's say if we could sell some of these players for funds. And we can't. But the thing is on that, and I don't want to skip over too many pages at once, but the loans are running out because you're only allowed a certain amount of outgoing and incoming loans in one season. It's so
seven,
I don't know,
isn't it? Maximum of 7. I think I heard it. I was watching Cages as well. I don't know if people in here watch Cages, love Cages channel, but he was saying, it's 5 loans out so far. You've got a maximum of 7. So whoever wants to make that move, they better get their requesting soon.
It varies depending on if it's international or within the UK as well.
Yeah.
So I think if I remember rightly, I think you can have 7 in total, a maximum of 5 abroad and 2 within the UK, something like that. Anyway, but we're getting close towards it being a problem. So what happens then? And I think some of the players that we're talking about as well, that we're now left with the players that have got real value now. Either through potential or physically out and out performances, i.e., Nonto, Harrison, Tyler Adams, Somerville. I would probably put in that equation as well. Pascal Strike maybe. So I won't be putting any money down on him, but he might still have a bit of value. So I think now what you're probably going to see with Ampadu 7 million, and I would imagine there'll be some other transfers that are going to cost us some coin as well. You're probably going to see a few go out that are going to cost money.
Yeah, you'd think so. And when I was reflecting on this today, when Mark Rocker went, I thought, all the players that have gone so far, big deal. Rasmus left, Llorente left, and you're just going, well, actually, we don't want him here. And let's be honest, if someone was coming in for a fee for them and wanted to pay up the money for them, they would. But they're clearly not in demand to that. They're not in demand. Nobody's going to do that. If they can get them on loan, they're not going to pay a fee for these players that have not performed.
100%. 100%. And that's why most of them are going to have optional purchase in place, because for these clubs, it makes sense to have that there for if they have a banging season. Because what you might find that happens with Matt Rocker is he'll go to Betis, he'll play 35 games, he'll have a smashing season, and his value will actually be 15, 20 million quid.
Yeah.
But they've already got an option to buy at 10 million quid, and they're thinking, cooking, nice one, wicked.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we've not got that in place with Brendan Aronson, because I think that the worry there is that we're still going to potentially be in a position where we lose too much. I don't think they could agree to an option to buy and it makes sense with my brain today.
Aronson.
No, what the team that has gone to
Aronson, Union Berlin.
Berlin, that's it. Yeah, Union Berlin. We paid 30 million for him or whatever. The maximum that they would say, we'll take the option to buy would be 15 million, 20 million. And we're not going to agree to that because it just don't make sense. It just don't make sense. So it makes sense to pump some value back into him, make a decision next summer. If we want to cut us loss with him, great. If we don't, we bring him back and we play him again, or we send him out on loan again.
Yeah, no, I think, Aronson's the one where I think there's still whatever small potential it might be. This could still, if we got promoted, that could potentially work in the future, I think. And we signed him for a huge fee. I mean, Rasmus and these guys, there were smaller fees, weren't there?
Yeah.
Andy, the players that have gone on loan are the ones most fans wanted to leave anyway. Yeah. Let's get to some of your comments, actually. And guys, please hit the like button as well, like our good friend here, Richo, says. Fergal, Ampadu has been good when he's played against my national team, Republic of Ireland. It's amazing how many caps he's got.
44 caps at 22. It's wild, isn't it?
That is ridiculous, isn't it? Diggler, thanks for your comment, mate. Ampadu might be a good acquisition. I'm unsure at this stage, but I'm willing to trust Farke's judgment on the player. It could have just been a coincidence that he was there at 3 relegations. Well, this is it. It'd be interesting, actually, how it kind of works, isn't it, when the fact that you've had Hammond there, who's probably been there, about a month now, and then you've got Farke in the door, just a couple of weeks. What are those conversations? It'd be fascinating to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah, it would.
And, when they kind of knuckle down to who to actually bring in.
I think on the relegation point, if we'd have gone down the season before, would you have been like, oh, Rafinha's got relegated? You wouldn't. And I know 3 is different to 1, but my point is that it doesn't change the quality of a standout player. And like I say, I think, for a 19-year-old lad in a Sheffield United team to make 25 appearances, he clearly was doing something right. I didn't see a load of him. I know obviously a lot about him, but yeah, for me, I think it's a top signing. And not only that, but it's a signing that we can actually hope to develop. It could get better at Leeds, or it could get better at Leeds and then potentially move on for big money again. Because Chelsea clearly, signed him for a reason. They signed him to make money on him, which they've done, or develop him into a player that could have played in their first team. So, I just don't think there can be any negatives in it. It's versatile. He plays a lot of games. He's seasoned. I always think there's something about a player that'd be prepared to move to Chelsea at 16 from Exeter and then also go out on 3 separate loans, 2 of them to Italy. You know what I mean? Like, I think that says something about somebody. 44 appearances for Wales. I don't care Wales are not a fantastic international setup, sure, but I also think you don't make 44 appearances for a senior international side like Wales at 22 if you've not got something about you. So for me, I just think what more could we want? Really?
I agree, and I think it also points to the ambition side of it as well, because what other championship team is Ampadu really, really going to? Okay, you can imagine maybe a Leicester or a Southampton. You could imagine that, but other than that, not many. No. And clearly, he's only 22. He has been at a top club. He's been at a club, competing for the top honours, and clearly has that ambition, like you say, to even make the move in the first place. So hopefully there's some kind of alignment there where Leeds are saying, look, we're putting the pieces together to get back to that level. Come join us, basically, and
come have a new home. I can absolutely imagine that he's probably sick of moving around as well. Yeah. Give him a 5-year deal, give him somewhere to settle down and not build a team around him, because I don't think you can build a team around a defensive midfielder personally, but certainly allow him to be one of the cornerstones of the foundation of this new kind of era, if you like. And I think just coming back to another point about that you mentioned about Nick Hammond, I saw something or heard something earlier about Daniel Farke's first signing was a number 6 from the UK in his last 2 seasons at Norwich in the Championship. I don't know how true that is, but I think the point is that it was that this is an important position in my team. I need to get it right. I think Oliver Skip were one of them, and I can't remember the other one. But he signed 2 players in the similar kind of mold to Ampadu, and then we've followed the same kind of pattern again here in that this is obviously an important signing for his setup. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Interesting. We need to know.
No, Browne is gone.
Because that'd be done all that by the age of 22. Am I still there?
You're back.
I've got my little signal warning on the screen as well. I don't know why I'm plugged in. I've actually got a Ethernet cable in, so I'm gonna have to.
You went into super slow mode and then appeared like you were on speed.
Yeah, meds have kicked in at last. Let's have a look. Skip. What wingers are we realistically going to keep? Rutter, James, Somerville, Sinistera, Harrison, Pavedo, Nonta, Costa. Yeah, when you put it like that, Skip, to be fair, mate, lots of choice. Jason, just back to the Man United game then. What were your kind of thoughts of the game, some of the players? I know you didn't watch it all, but kind of what did it make you think in terms of the squad and the reaction to it as well?
Yeah, no, I think first half we obviously played fairly well from what I've seen and what I've heard. I thought there were some good performances from some of the younger lads. From what again I've seen and heard, I thought Lewis Bates stood out. I thought he played really well. Yeah, from what I saw, but I've seen this from him at Oxford. If you watch his highlight kind of package from Oxford, I don't know it's only League One, but the way that you do things is the same no matter the level. What happens is the players around you react differently to it. And what Lewis Bates is so good at doing is taking the ball in tight spaces and wriggling out of it. He's fantastic when the ball's tight to him and the player's tight to him, getting into them half positions and then transitioning the ball on to attacks. His passing range is really good as well. So, I was really impressed with him. I was impressed with what I saw from Rutter first half as well. The problem that Rutter, I think, has got is he naturally gravitates towards the half spaces, towards a fullback, which is why he's always going to struggle at 9. But funnily, after the game, he basically, to me anyway, and whether it was just the language barrier, he kind of came across as he was he wanted to play number 9, and he sees his best position as number 9, but he can also play out wide. That is pretty much what he said. I don't think that's the case. I still think we need a 9 to go in and amongst him. But I thought, getting back to the point, I thought his build-up was really good. He was getting in spaces and areas where he was setting attacks going, but he wasn't the player that was on the end of them, and that's what you need from a number 9. So whether maybe his understanding of what he needs to bring as a 9 isn't quite what we need right now. I don't know, but I think in a Farke system, we need an out-and-out 9 to be putting the ball in the back of the net. Some of the build-up play in the first half was good. It ended up with either Sinisterra in a good position or Poveda in a good position. The chance that Sinisterra put through that I think it was Hannibal cut out in the first half. Yeah. Great tackle on Poveda, and Poveda would pretty much do to score. So yeah, there was some good moments. I thought Cooper had a good game from what I saw. But you know what you're going to get from Coops. He's going to be dependable. He shouldn't be playing every week in the Championship next season, but he's going to be dependable. And then apart from that, really, other than picking out individuals, other young individuals, I thought there were some good ones. I thought Drame had some frosty moments. I will mention that because I don't think it can be all just singing and dancing. I think his defensive game at times is a bit rushed and haphazard, but he's good when he's standing wingers up. He'll usually get a block in, but I think he's rushed at times. But he was asked to play left back as well, and that can't have been too easy.
That was
we haven't got another option. That's why he was playing there. Right now, we ain't got anybody else. But yeah, the two others that I would want to mention are Ayling and Bamford, who both looked horrendous. So yeah, it was an interesting couple of players that I want to kind of bring up and get the chat's opinion as well. Is Shackleton. How did people feel about Shackleton? Because I've been waiting for years for Shackleton to kind of emerge, but I don't know. I don't think he's at the level. I really don't. I don't know what it is. I don't know what he's missing, but he just, for some reason, it's just not happening for him. But I just thought he was one of the worst players on the pitch, to be honest. It's James Milner if you ordered him off Wish.
Doing the bleep tests and all that, smashing the bleep tests.
He's got bags of energy and he will give you 100%, but he's just not got the ability or the positional awareness to make it at the top level. I can totally understand how he made 36 appearances for Millwall, but half of them were off the bench. And I think he played 90 minutes 9 times, and he was fit for most of the season. You can totally get it. He would be great in League One or towards the bottom of the Championship. He'd play a lot of games, but he's never, ever, ever, unfortunately, going to develop any more ability or much more ability than what he's got. He will never play long-term in the Premier League. Never, ever, ever. He's just not got it. He's just not. He's not got the ability. It's as simple as that sometimes. Like, it's not a nasty thing to say that your ceiling's the Championship, the second division of English football. Yeah. It's only a select few that can do that. So
exactly. Andy Greenwood, Shackleton, loads of energy, but just does not have the quality. Fergal, unfortunately, Shacks will have to be sold. Yeah, what about Ian Poveda? He was actually all right. He was kind of sharp, and he's got something about him. He's an interesting one, isn't he?
I never imagined that Ian Poveda would be a player that was splitting the fan base during the summer. I kind of even forgot he was coming back, to be honest. I didn't realize he had another year on his deal. But I mean, for a winger, for me, he's not quick enough. I think we saw that when he first came through under Bielsa. But he's definitely got technical ability on the ball. Yeah. And again, you don't play in some of the academies that he's played in unless he's got talent. Barca, Man City to mention, and there's a few other really high-profile academies. And from what I've heard, both the managers that he's been out on loan with, Gary Bowyer and Mick McCarthy, both say he's super talented. Blackburn and Blackpool over the last 2 seasons, but his attitude stinks. And we heard the same under Bielsa, didn't we? So what do you do with that? Like, at the end of the day, football is littered with players that have got the technical ability to do it, but just not got it in between their ears.
If he had Jack Harrison's professionalism and mentality,
probably, yes, something you can't question with Jack, innit? So I don't know what will happen with him. I can't imagine that he will be starting games for Leeds United this summer. Maybe he might be around for the first few, but I would imagine before the end of the window he'll probably be gone. I think.
Yeah, you'd think, wouldn't you? You'd think.
I think.
Could he just be that mercurial talent? You never know. You never know. Ian Pervada, will he come to the fore?
Imagine.
It'd be great, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Imagine.
You mentioned Bamford and Ayling. It's a problem.
I get sick of talking about it.
I know. I mean, we've said, you know, particularly Bamford as well. We've kind of said everything. We're desperate. We're absolutely desperate for something else up top. I mean, you know, it cut a few times into Bamford, and he's like throwing his hands up and having a go at players.
Did you see him having a go at Chris Moore?
Oh,
it would absolutely go mad at Chris Moore. And I'm thinking,
he's like that. Come on,
17-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Like, give it a rest. Like, the lad's not even played for the senior team yet. He's out, you know, playing against Manchester United. And he's, you know, ridiculous. Like, come on. Like, what do you think that I'm just hoping Farke sees it. Surely he does, right? Like, surely he does.
I hope so. I mean, I think it's sad in one way because the Bamford story was about redemption. The fact that he had a difficult time of it kind of at Leeds, you know, and fans were on his back a little bit, and he did the, you know, cup. Was it the cup or covered his ears celebration?
That was Millwall, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then it all turned around, you know, in the Premier League, you know, when it was behind closed doors, and he had a fantastic season, gets an England cap, and we all fell in love with Bamford. We loved him, you know. We
defended him for years.
The guy. Oh yeah, I mean, and he was crucial to the Bielsa system. We've covered it many times, but now it's just at a point where you just think, oh come on. I mean, just watching Rutter on the ball, when you watch Rutter on the ball and how fluid he is, I mean, it's just miles apart. I mean, it's just not even close.
For me, mate, right? He's on 35 grand a week now, half of his 70 grand. Just send him anywhere. 20, you know, we'll pay 80% of the wages, you cover 20% or whatever. Just for me, he could go for nothing. Like, and I mean, I know it's not my money, but the facts are.
I agree. No, I would.
He's more of a hindrance being here on 35 grand a week than he is not being here, and we still pay 35 grand a week. That's how bad I think it. Not just from a performance point of view. Do I think Patrick Bamford could probably score 10 goals for his next season? Probably. It probably could. He's had 3 seasons in Premier League football. You know, he's matured. His injuries and all that are definitely hampering him. But he could still score us some goals next season. But the overall picture of him, the attitude, the baggage that now comes with him, the feeling of the fans. You know, if the fans see Patrick Bamford start against Cardiff, straight away you're taking the place down by 20%.
You are. It's got to that point. It's got to that point now.
He needs it as well. He needs a fresh start. So for me, I would do anything to kind of see him out of the door. Send him to the MLS, send him to Saudi, send him on loan to Luton for free. Like whatever it takes, just send him out the door. Certainly for this season, he cannot be there. Ayling's a different kettle of fish. I just think Ayling is not good enough anymore. But if Ayling sits on our bench and plays maybe 10 games, you know, starts 10 games this season, I'd be all right with that. I love the guy to bits. I just think his legs have gone a little bit. He's not as fit as he used to be. You know, he's got a lot of wear and tear. He's absolutely pushed himself to his max for 3 years under Bielsa. And I just think it's gone. Like, and that's fine. He's 32 now or whatever. It happens. So, but I don't think he's a bad influence. That's the difference. I don't think he's a bad influence. So, yeah, that's how I see Bamford. It's an absolute must that he doesn't play for me.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Andy, Bamford did not look interested in scum game and always moaning with other players. Need to sell past the sell-by date. But as Fergal says, who's going to buy? Who's going to buy Bam Bam? Also, Fergal, he needs an arm round him and his confidence built with another club and never come back. Yeah, indeed. And Bill is a squad player now. I think absolutely. It's like my big fear going into this season was you were going to see that core of the old guard still starting and managers being blind to it. I mean, you know, when you look at Allardyce coming in and just picking these, you know, the old guard, it's just rubbish.
The problem with Bamford, Browne, sorry to interrupt you, the problem with Bamford is that finding a number 9 is extremely difficult. Like there is so few and everybody wants one. So the problem for a manager's perspective is if they get rid of Bamford and then they start the season without one, like an out and out at all, you're then potentially in a position where you're in trouble because you haven't got a one at all. So, can you rely on Joseph, Perkins, Joffrey, maybe even Rutter doing that job? It's a big risk because none of them are out and out number 9s. None of them. So I get the position that the manager is in. I just personally think that the pros outweigh the cons of getting rid of him.
Yeah, no, I agree. Diggler, I'm fascinated to see how Farker views Bamford. Yeah, indeed. Ailing, I love him, but he can't defend. I like when he attacks. So, yeah, you would hope Farker, when he's taking a good look at these players, that he knows that something has to be done. And it does point to last year, the fact that we still kept these players around and still insisted on playing them all the time. What a huge problem it was going to be. What about this indoor game we played against Barnet? God, we need to play without crowds all the time, don't we? What did we win? 10-1 or 9-1?
9-1, yeah. I don't know how many of their first teamers were playing. No. That's the only thing that I will say. I mean, a first teamer did score their goal. Yeah, so, make of that what you will. But a first teamer did score, so we know that our first teamer played for Barnsley. And I know they've got massive problems off the pitch from what I'm hearing, transfer embargo, and I don't even know if they've got a manager in yet because their manager went to Swansea. So, yeah, I think it needs to be treated with a bit of context, but there's still also the team that finished, runners up in the playoff final in League One. So they're not that far off Championship standard. If at all, they actually probably deserve to win that final. No. So, yeah, good for confidence. Lots of goal scorers. Good to see the kids do well. Because you see, this is the main kind of apprehension for me this season is we've got enough players to start this season off, no problem. But we actually don't know how good most of them are. We literally don't have a clue. With the exception of probably Drame and Gellart, we have no idea if they're going to be able to mix it at championship level. When you're looking at Archie and JB, Perkins, Joseph, we can all think that we've seen bits and heard bits that make us feel confident. But the facts are we don't know. We don't know at all. Some of these players, I'm telling you, there'll be some of these players that end up having careers in League One and League Two, and that'll be it. Yeah, they almost certainly will be. So that's where the apprehension comes for me. But so being it, taking a team like that apart and doing what they did, great. Absolutely great.
Matt Paul, Joffrey always takes a step too far before shooting. Surely it can be worked on and he can gain the confidence to hit it first time. Yeah, it's a bit of a forgotten man, is Joffrey, when we think of all these options up front and the best choices we got. You look at Joffrey scoring a couple goals, Matteo Joseph doing the same. It's kind of fascinating as well because, when you look at that Bielsa team that got promoted, we didn't have this kind of abundance of young talent, did we really?
Not the same.
In many first team games, did we? Who did we have that was even young in that kind of championship winning team? It was kind of a mix of grizzled professionals who had got super fit under Bielsa and super well trained. Cooper, Dallas, these kind of guys that did it, and you wonder, like you say, are these young players going to be able to handle it? I love Archie Gray. I love the look of him. I think he's fantastic talent. Same with JB. But last week I just thought, we need so much more going into a 46-game championship.
I think, there were a few, weren't there, that played in that team. There were Oliver Casey were in and around the team, if I remember rightly. We had McKinstry, I think, were in that setup. I'm trying to think back to that side.
Ben White was only young at the time, wasn't he? Ben was only
Pascal Schroik was extremely young in that team as well. I think we had a couple of young keepers as well that were in and around the side. We had the young Polish lad Bogus, Matthias Bogus. He was in and around the side, but none of them really featured heavily. Jack Clark was the only real youngster that I would say featured, and he was on loan that season from Spurs. We'd already sold him the season before. There weren't many. I can't think of any others really.
Are you worried about goals? Where are the goals coming
100%.
from?
100%. And I mean, again, I think the team that we've got that are playing right now is going to be very different to the team look against Cardiff. Somebody mentioned earlier about all the wingers that we've got. We won't have all them come Cardiff. I mean, again, we're going to probably get onto this, but Harrison has been very quiet. Sinisterra, I think, is proving he can get fit. It feels a bit shop windowy for me at the moment. And I just can't imagine that we'll start, or not start the season, but be left come the end of August with Sinisterra in his ranks. I struggle to believe it.
It'd be unreal if they did.
Yeah, it would.
Imagine if it became Sinisterra. Oh.
I mean, I think if we have Nonto and Sinisterra come the end of the transfer window, I would feel like top 2 could be on, or top 6 could be on at the very least. I would feel, because I think they are so much better than anybody else that will be left in the Championship talent-wise. You get a number 9 that can just sit in the 6-yard box and tap goals in. Like, you literally could. You could play Jordan Rhodes up there, and he'd bang in 25.
Watch out, Huddersfield.
He would though. Like, if you put, because Bamford will miss them chances. It takes 5 to score one of them. But like a killer in front of goal, like a Jordan Rhodes or a Danny Ings, or I'm just rattling out some names that know exactly where the goal is. Teddy Sheringham could do it at 40 because he knew exactly where to position himself to tap the ball in. One of them. So I think they're talent, but I can't see it. I can't see it. I think Sinisterra will go. I think Harrison will go. I think Somerville will go, and I think we'll keep Nonto. I think there's a world in which we can keep Nonto and keep Adams. The more I think about it, the more that is how I see this kind of path going. Sinisterra is 50-50 because I think his injuries will put a lot of teams off spending 25 million. So we might as well keep him. We're not going to loan Sinisterra out. It just don't make any sense to me. Unless
will he not have this release loan
maybe
clause thing though?
I think it's a bit different with Sinisterra because he's Colombian. I think he's stipulation of like, as an example, AC Milan can't sign him because they can only have 2 non-EU players and they've already got 2. So I think it kind of puts Sinisterra in a bit of a tricky position because are you going to risk one of your loan signings that you can bring in because they have loan restrictions on how many loans they can bring in? Are you going to waste it on one that might only be able to get you 15, 20 games because his injury record is horrendous, and you're going to take one of your 2 slots for a non-EU player? So I just think what's attached to him is a little bit different.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully that stands us in good stead. And because he will be absolutely, every time you see Sinisterra on the pitch, you're just like,
it's class out, isn't it?
Unreal, absolutely unreal. A bit more breaking news then from this evening. Greta Steinson may be taking over a senior position in Leeds United's recruitment team. It may actually pave the way for Nick Hammond to exit a bit earlier than he originally intended to do. I think he was going to be there until October, but this may speed things along. Phil Hayes done an article in The Athletic. I've seen a little bit of what he's about. I mean, he's had a bit of an interesting track record. I did text you saying he was part of Everton's recruitment team in the recent history, so that does.
We're chief European scout.
Yeah, we had a really good relationship with Michael Brands, who was their director of football for a while. I think he was part of his team, but I mean, who knows? I mean, he's been at Tottenham for the last year, and they've decided to kind of part ways. Known as a pretty strong character, apparently he's a bit like a pit bull, according to some other people that have worked with him. I'm a little bit kind of thinking, I would have kind of liked to have seen Nick Hammond kind of at least stay till the end of the window. I mean, I'm not saying he's about to leave or anything.
Yeah.
But, they must like something about him if they think, bringing him in early. I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, it's not actually defined what his role will be, but it seems to be that he's going to be the one who's going to be kind of dictating where things are going. But there is, and they've alluded to this, the fact that it can't just be one man like Victor who is overseeing everything, and the need for more of a team to do it.
I don't know loads about him, but in looking who he is, I do know who he is. I remember that he played right back for Bolton, under Allardyce. So he's an ex-Premier League player. I do know he is looking at him. But yeah, I don't know much about him. I mean, all we can kind of hope is that how stringent the recruitment process is under the 49ers and how stringent the management decision has been, is that equally this decision has been made with similar kind of stringent look on it. You'd have to believe that it is. It's a big decision. It's a big job for somebody coming in. So yeah, like fingers crossed. That's all I can kind of say, because like I said, I don't know enough about him. But Everton thought enough to employ him in a position of seniority. So did Spurs. They don't get them all right, but you'd like to believe he's got something about him that's seen him take them positions. So yeah, I think we just got to get behind it. I'd like to see Nick Hammond stay on as well. I weren't against Stuart Webber taking over either, truthfully, because I think that's all the way that we all thought it would go in. But
it's amazing when you look at it as well. It's like a blank canvas, Leeds, this summer, isn't it? You had to build up the squad, the management. You've got new owners. You're trying to put in recruitment teams. So much to work with, and it's that thing of who sits down and decides, right, this is the direction of the club. From what you've seen so far, and we've touched on it before, are you happy with kind of the pieces of the puzzle that they're putting together? Does it feel right? Does it feel like we're going in a good direction, do you think? Or is it too early to say?
I think it's probably too early to say. I'm still anxious about it. I'm still trepidation more than anticipation. But I think it's just because it's a bit of Leeds United PTSD, isn't it? Like, we're all kind of suffering a little bit and everything that's gone on, and we don't know exactly how it's going to look come, the start of the season. But today's news, Ampadu, and that kind of direction.
It makes you feel better, doesn't it? You feel immediately lighter because they're actually doing something.
But I do think, mate, I think he's going to put a lot of faith in these youngsters. I think there's going to be a lot of faith put in some of these youngsters. I see, Joseph playing a lot of minutes. I think he'll play a lot of minutes. I think Gray and JB will. I'm not 100% sold on JB, and I'll be one of only a few that I think will come out and say that. But from what I've seen, physically seen, I just don't think he's ready.
What is it about him that
I think he's a little bit slow in thought. I think his positional awareness isn't super as sharp as what you're going to need it to be in the Championship, where you have players breathing down your neck really quickly. He's obviously got talent, but I'm sure it can come out of him. But players develop at all sorts of different rates, and I don't think he should be our starting centre midfielder. In the Championship next season. I hope I'm wrong. Like, I hope he comes in against Cardiff and absolutely smashes it. But from what I've seen, I'm not gonna, I think sometimes you see it on social media where people will just say, "Oh, Darko JB is going to be a baller." Based on what? Based on the fact that you just hope he is going to be. Like, it's based on nothing more than we've signed him from Man City for £5 million. And they don't suffer fools. Like, it just makes no sense to me. What we've seen in Alicia, and don't get me wrong, he's had good performances for the 23s and he plays for the England under-21s, but have you physically seen enough to say that he can play Championship football week in, week out? I don't believe that you have. Whereas Bate, as an example, I've physically seen it. I've physically seen that he's shown the attributes that I think he can be a real player. In the Championship next season. I still think he'll have times where he'll struggle, because I think the physical demands of the Championship are going to be tough on some of these lads. Cody Drama could say the same. He's had 2 spells, but a full season playing for Leeds United, going for the top 2, is very different to playing 6 months for Luton.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because he's not had a full season in the Championship. So, obviously, he's proven that he can do it in the Championship, but I'm just making the point. Yeah. I think, I think that the youngsters have got to be given time, and they've got to have fallbacks where they can come out of the team. If you are forcing whoever into the starting 11 every week, you're going to have the same situation that we've had with Brendan Aronson this season in the Premier League. You're going to have that in the Championship. These players will swallow it up inside themselves and they'll disappear. You won't see him again.
Is this where Glenn Kamara comes in and just gives us that bit more experience? I mean, I'm kind of doubting it's going to happen because it doesn't
Me
feel
too.
like the typical 49ers way, because it's a few of those other accounts, isn't it, that like to spread transfer rumours about, and
Yeah.
it all dissolves to nothing, which should be a shame. But I mean, someone like him, I mean, you know, if it, you know, Glenn Kamara, I mean, what would we be getting if we got him in the door?
Super player for the championship, for a championship level. I'd probably take him in the Premier League, to be honest. I think he's, you know, he's got real mobility around the pitch. He's got good experience, and yeah, he's exactly what you would kind of want to be banking on week in, week out. That doesn't mean that he plays every minute of every game, because some of these players that kind of, you know, that can come in, the youngsters, they need to show themselves and have minutes when it isn't all down to them. It's especially down the spine of that team. The centre backs, the centre midfielders, and the striker, along with the goalkeeper, are so important that we get them right this summer. We've not had them right for so long, you know, whether it be Weston McKennie, Adam Forshaw, Brendan Aronson, like all these players that we've looked at over the last few years, and Stuart Dallas having to play in there because we've not got a proper centre midfielder. Like, this has gone on for years and years now, and it's so important that we get it right next season. So important. Like, I love Archie Gray. I love what we've seen. I mean, the chance that he had against Man United, we've seen like that's proper technical talent on his weak foot. Yeah,
do you know what is that great? He's sharp in possession.
Yeah,
you know, and what you were saying about JB, you know, and sometimes that maybe that concentration, or I feel like Gray's kind of almost like fully formed, almost. You know what I mean? He's just so good.
Have you heard that he's got a younger brother as well?
Yeah, he's a striker, isn't he? Apparently, yeah, he's striker. He's about 14 or something. So
apparently,
oh my god, I hope he's decent.
Apparently, his level's even better than Archie's at the same age. So apparently, he's meant to be like the next best thing. So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, like
God bless the Grays family. I tell you,
I know.
What have they done for this club?
We've had a few of them play for us. We even had were it Andy Gray?
Yeah, Andy Gray,
ex Bradford City. He even came to us for a little bit of time. Striker, didn't he?
Yeah, so I played in the 1996 League Cup final.
No, not that Andy Gray. The Gray after that. He played for us. He signed on a free transfer in the 2000s when we were in the Championship. He played for Bradford. I'm sure it was Andy.
What's his relation? Is it? Oh, is
his nephew? Nephew, I think it is.
Oh my god, there's so many of them. Andy
Gray.
Gray. Born 77.
Played for Forest as well. Played for Nottingham Forest for a long time.
Sure. Oh yeah. Is it? Hang on. Is it this one? Andy Gray. Is that not the same one?
No. Andy Gray played in 96. Oh my god, he did. Oh my god, it's the same one. Yeah, I didn't even realise he'd started his career at Leeds. Jesus Christ,
I'm a bit older than you, so I like, you know what I mean. I'm a bit older than you, so it was like I remember the bitter taste of that defeat in '96.
It's one of the first games I remember watching that. The Leeds Villa 3-0 final, but I obviously I was 6-year-old. I don't remember any of the detail. I just remember that we lost 3-0. But I couldn't remember the players that played. But yeah, he played that day.
Andy Gray was the only bright spot of the entire game. He was he was the only one who did anything. It was diabolical performance, but he was decent. And
did he start that day?
He started. Yeah, he started.
Wow.
Yeah. Because we had Thomas Brolin. We'd signed Thomas Brolin. He got left on the bench, and it was like, what's going on? Because he was our big signing at the time. But yeah.
Well, I remember us re-signing him years later.
2012, 2013, apparently.
Signed on a free transfer. He didn't do much. I think we just needed a player, basically.
Yeah.
I think somebody got injured and he came in. But wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, Diglan Milosevic, I know he scored a cracking goal. I think it hit off the bar and that. I don't know if he got a hat-trick, though. I can't remember if it were a hat-trick or not. But yeah, worst day I've ever had as a football fan, I think. So yeah, let's hope the latest Gray can so it might solve our striking issues, actually. What's the youngest you can get them registered? Can he play 15?
15, I think.
Peter Lorimer style, just get in there.
Yeah,
apparently, some reports of personal terms agreed with Nat Phillips from Liverpool as well in a deal worth 10 million. We've talked a little bit about him. Is that exactly the type of player we need to come in and do something for us? Would you be happy with that one, Jess?
bit more trepidation than Ampadu with Nat Phillips, because I think he's 26. He's not played a lot of football, but again, Liverpool think enough of him. If he's good enough for Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp to be playing when they needed a centre back, I think he's good enough for us in the Championship. Got Bournemouth promoted. Got I forget the team in Germany that he got promoted as well. The season before. I think he's a good, solid centre back. I think he can play. I think he's got this kind of reputation as being a centre back that can't play, but he definitely can. He's pretty good on the ball. His distribution's good. And I don't think he's as slow as people try and make out. He's definitely no slower than Liam Cooper. Let's put it like that. So yeah, for me, again, it's going back to that solid core, the spine of the team. And yeah, I'd be happy with that. I think 10 million is probably overpaying us a little bit. But again, I think when you're buying players from Liverpool, they don't need to sell. They can fetch that from the continent. I know he's been linked with Feyenoord, right? I think it was. But he wants guaranteed of minutes, which I respect. Probably don't have to move house or anything like that, which does play a big part. So he's prepared to drop to the Championship and help Leeds United get promoted. I'm all for it, and I think him and Ampadu is a real good, solid start. I do worry about the minutes that Cresswell will get, but I don't think we can be sentiment. I think if he doesn't deserve it,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Got to be ruthless like that. And if he can come in and do a job in games, then exactly that's the way it has to be. Fergal, I see Joel Robles has said his goodbyes. He has, yeah. Nice little statement. Got to be getting a keeper in, surely. I mean, there's Newbell from Bayern Munich that's been linked.
I don't think that'll happen.
Feels a bit Kiko if that happened.
Truthfully, Browne, he's way better than Kiko. He's a number one. He obviously went to Bayern Munich and is playing second fiddle to arguably the best, or one of the best keepers of our generation in Neuer. He's been out on loan the last 2 seasons at Monaco and done well. There's other teams in the Bundesliga that want to take him, but they want to take him on loan. And we want to make it permanent, but I just don't see him dropping to the Championship. It'd be a monster signing, in my opinion. He's a very, very good keeper. Very, very good keeper.
Yeah, absolutely. Maggie, I use buying Kamara. Maggie, welcome to the channel. Who do you spot? Is it Rangers? Maggie, let us know. Digler, I do hope we get Kamara because he looks pretty good. Yeah, it's nice that we're moving now. We're hopefully seeing a bit of action happening. I mean, it's scary. I think the transfer window shuts in 41 days. 41 days to piece your squad together, but it feels at least like it's heading in the right direction.
I can handle. Sorry to interrupt again.
No.
I can handle 5 real good quality signings, along with keeping 2 or 3 of the ones that we don't think we'll be able to keep, and then surrounding it with this best youth. I can take it. If this is the level of signing that we're going to make, and we're going to be putting this level of investment in per signing, I'm okay with it. I really am okay with it. So I think as long as this Ampadu signing gets over the line today, tomorrow, Fabrizio's now confirmed it 6 hours ago, I've seen. So it's happening, it's done, which also tells me that it doesn't matter about ratification. I do think that Rads is having to sign off on these deals. I think that's maybe why some of it's taking a little bit longer, because I'm guessing there'll have to be some sort of legality in it. So yeah, I think we're going to make the signings that we need. There's no way that Danny Farker's looking at this and not knowing that we need a left back, knowing that we need a goalkeeper, and not knowing that we need a striker. If he chooses to go into the season with Rutter as the main man at 9 and Joseph and Perkins and Joffe and maybe even Pat off the bench as backups, I've said the reasons why I don't think that should happen from a personal point of view, but from an ability point of view, to have Bamford coming off the bench as a backup number 9, that can't be a bad thing from a football perspective. That would make sense. Then fine, I'll back him. But I would be absolutely stunned if we start the season without another number 9. Yeah. I worry about how many we can get in, and we probably do have more concerning issues elsewhere. As much as number 9 is massively important, centre back, centre midfield, goalkeeper, left back. Like they are more important, unbelievably, as bad as the striker position is. But like I say, if he goes with Rutter, I can take it. I can take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what was this business about Barcelona not stumping up the cash for Rafinha? So all this that was going on.
Well, I just saw it, and it was I can't remember who put it out, but it was a kind of a verified publication. It might have even come from the Athletic. I can't remember where I saw it now. But basically, the initial 15 million quid had been paid, and then they were due to pay 40 million further over 3 payments over 6 months. So 6 months, 6 months, 6 months to make up that. So whatever that maths is, 12 million, 13 million every 6 months or something. And apparently they've defaulted on that first payment, which will now be somewhere towards a second payment, because he sold 12 months ago. So be interested to know what happens with that, and it'd be interested to know what kind of interest or what kind of impact it has on Leeds United not having that cash in through the doors. What citations and sanctions do Barcelona face as a consequence of that? But it's interesting. And I think it was something that we all worried would happen.
With
the Barcelona situation.
Their financial situation. I mean, they've operated in just a ridiculous fashion at Barcelona. I mean, if you look 10 years ago, they had held the keys to the castle, really, in terms of La Masia producing players, 6 or 7 homegrown players that were winning everything in sight, and they just absolutely have blown it. What do you think of all these investors that are popping up? And we're hearing a lot of NBA players. It seems like a new one every day is announcing they've got a stake in Leeds, golfers. A lot of successful people, a lot of really successful people involved in this. Do you think it's conducive to building a successful operation, though, when it's split between so many people? Obviously, they're not going to have anything to do with running the club.
Yeah.
But, I mean, does it feel like a bit like a vanity project for these people, or do you think it's just how it goes?
I think it's just the modern way, innit? I think, a lot of these, especially the golfers, they are like a brand in themselves. And I think as part of their brand, they attach then other brands, i.e. Leeds United, to their name. And I think it just makes them more popular, more sought after. People want to speak to them more, the interviews, adverts, guest appearances, whatever. And I think it all comes as kind of part of that. And I think, these are minority stakeholders, not majority stakeholders. The majority stakeholders are very quiet, pumping millions and millions into the situation to hopefully be, make bags full of money. So I ain't got a problem with it, because I can't see how it will ever really bring Leeds United into disrepute or bring the club and the name into the mud or anything like that. So yeah, I'm okay with it. I think, again, we're talking about us in a good light. People are interested in the situation. Makes us more marketable over in America, especially, which is good for his future. Like, it's important for his future that we are marketable over there with American owners, certainly in the short term, next 5 years or so. So yeah, like, not worried about it for me. Some of these people are mega money men, by the way. There's some serious money.
Yeah, there's one. I can't remember his name, but the NBA player, I think the latest one, I think is something like the 12th or 13th highest earning athlete in the world. You're just like, wow,
wild, isn't it? Wild.
And they're part of our club, our little old Leeds United. Wow.
But you know what? We are like, we don't just have a divine right, but at the same time, we are still a huge brand. You see, Michael B. Jordan attaching himself to Bournemouth. Like, so, think about in perspective terms, think about the colossus that is Leeds United in comparison to Bournemouth. So you can understand why it attracts some of these people. And like I said, they've got a promise of big money at the end of it. It's almost like share scheme. Like a work
pyramid scheme. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a big version of that. Like, if you don't make money, you get your money back that you've put in. That's what this is. That is exactly what this is. They will be given a guarantee from these big people at the top, venture capitalist company. Look, you put this money in, you leave it in there for 3, 4, 5 years, whatever the minimum term is. And if we don't make a profit, you'll get your money back.
Yeah,
that's what it is. So it makes sense for these people to then attach themselves with it and try and get the train moving for that is, Leeds United. So
yeah, exactly. Digler, yeah, those investors do expect a return on their money, though, one way or another. It's all about money nowadays. Yeah, I mean, God, yeah, it's absolutely. But are we excited? Are we starting to get a little bit excited now? We've got a bit of movement. Season's just around the corner. New manager. Hopefully, some more new players. What do we think? Are we ready, guys? In the chat, let us know. Are you excited about the season now?
I feel better than I did on whenever we were sending you the messages the other day because I literally I felt like crying. I felt like crying. I was just like, not another day like where we're just hearing bad news, players going, this happening, that happening. Like, not as much as I know Nonto's not going to go to Everton for 15 million quid. Like, it still hurts that it's kind of talking about it. It's just depressing and miserable. What's happening with Melier? What's happening with Sinistera? Where's Jack Harrison? I've got to watch Pat Bamford again. Like,
it was building up, wasn't it? It was just building
and I'm
up.
just like, I can't deal with another day of this, But yeah, I'm looking forward to the season starting now. I want to get through this next 21 days from a Leeds United perspective as quickly as possible, so we can just kind of start looking forward to the Saturday. Hopefully the team's taken a bit of shape by then. Players are going to now see you're spending money. The players that maybe are and ahhing, do we go to Leeds United? Do we go there? Maybe they'll start to think, you know what? Yeah, they're putting 7 million down on a player like Ampadu. Yeah, I fancy that project now. Hopefully it starts to see stuff moving. So yeah, as optimistic as we can be thinking about a season of the Championship ahead of us,
Exactly. Good stuff. Well, if you've enjoyed the video, please do smash a like. Also, subscribe to the channel for more content on Leeds United and our other teams across West Yorkshire. We will be back again. We'll let you know when. Hopefully, this week potentially. We've got something exciting going on, but we'll wait and see. But thank you very much for watching. I've been Stephen Browne, and with me has been Jayson Booker. Jason, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again soon.